the wrong way and the right way to talk about politics. As I interpreted, Judaism believes in medical care. We are partners with God in bringing healing to the world. And as I interpret the sources, Judaism commands us to work to heal all people. And yes, ideally as possible, to not use healthcare as a for-profit enterprise. I am passionate about affordable, quality healthcare to all, and I am proud to say that. 12 years ago, though, I learned a lesson. During the ACA Obamacare debate, I preached my love and passion for affordable healthcare from the pulpit, and I preached my support for the bill and couched it in Jewish values. And in my eagerness, I made generalizations about the Jewish commitment of those who opposed and questioned the Affordable Care Act. The next day, David, a congregant who I was quite friendly with and with whom I passionately debated politics with, called and invited me to coffee. Rabbi, I want to speak about your sermon. Those words scared me. But of course, I said yes. And here's the lecture that he shared while we drank coffee. Rabbi, he said, because I respect you and have a few years of wisdom on you, I want to share with you how I think you should talk politics from the Bima. Stick to the questions and leave them unanswered, he said. This is him speaking. I oppose Obamacare, yet I accept your premise that Judaism calls for healing. You see, I grew up in a European country with socialized medicine, and it showed me firsthand that it is not perfect, and in fact has quite a few problems. Here in the United States, medical professionals are just that. They're eager to provide customer service because there is competition. In Europe, there is little or no incentive for the doctor to go above and beyond. For me, David says, yes, we have a problem with fee-for-service here in America. People are chasing the almighty dollar over looking at the whole patient as a person. That needs working, but competitive healthcare is good. I never forgot David's words of wisdom. I have committed the transgression then that my sister always yelled about me as she read my high school essays, making broad, sweeping generalizations. David is passionately Jewish. David has his passionate beliefs, and I question them from a pulpit as a rabbi. I needed to embrace the right way to discuss politics in the synagogue from the Bima. In this week's Torah portion, Korah and his gang do not engage in good politics. They accuse, they generalize, and they throw roadblocks to the solutions. There is a popular misconception that clergy should not talk politics from the pulpit. This is difficult because the actual definition of politics is what happens between people when they try to get something done together. Religion in general, and Judaism in particular, has a lot to teach and say about how people interact and get things done together. The real saying should be, clergy need to speak politics correctly from the Bima. We need to be politically correct, to use that term, but not in the way that it's usually meant. So what is the politically correct way to talk politics amongst ourselves, not just clergy? A few brief suggestions, and this list is by no means exhaustive. Number one, we should stay focused on the issues and the views and work hard not to disparage people because they disagree. Almost all issues are complex. We as people are all complex. We don't fit into one little cookie cutter box of a party platform. The line between generalization and stereotyping is very close. Number 2, it is okay to have opinions, even strong opinions, on the issues. But we should listen to David's advice. Ask questions. In the medical care case, we should ask, how can we provide access to health care while maintaining the competition needed to drive progress? Debate is good. Opinions can and should be allowed to change, and debate often leads to creative solutions. Number 3, for clergy who cannot endorse candidates, we need to work with current leadership to promote the causes that are dear to Judaism. There is a reason in the healthcare world why there is Mount Sinai Hospital, Maimonides Hospital, and Long Island Jewish, and the list goes on. The Jewish community early on, and I forgot Montefiore, the first one, believed in healthcare for all. For the rest of you who are not clergy, please organize and support and promote the leaders that support your views, but do not disparage those that are democratically elected. Tomorrow, Israel is going to have a new prime minister. Regardless of whether you support Prime Minister designate Bennett or what you think of the end of Netanyahu's long tenure, let's marvel at the peaceful transition of power. We know more than ever not to take that for granted. Korah taught us that lesson thousands of years ago. Lastly, I urge all of us to follow what I call the breaking bread ideal. There is a beautiful myth that I hold dear about President Reagan and then House Speaker Tip O'Neill. They were known to be ideological jarring partners, disagreeing strongly on many issues. Yet at the end of many long days, they would meet for a drink and connect as people. By myth, I mean it's an idealized story that is supposed to inspire us to an ideal. The ideal is that disagreement cannot lead to violence or even to what we call cancel culture. The Talmud famously mentions that the disagreements between Hillel and Shammai are holy arguments, l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven, as opposed to Korach's argument. The schools of Hillel and Shammai allowed their children to marry each other. They all knew they were playing for the same team. Tip O'Neill's son wrote in 2012, "No, my father and Reagan were not close friends. Yes, after 6 p.m. they would have a drink together, but it wasn't the drink or the conversation that allowed American government to work in the 80s. It was a stubborn refusal to not allow the fundraisers, the activists, and the party platforms and ideological chasms to stand between them and actions. They wanted to keep the country moving." After my conversation with David, I promised that I would not let ideological differences get in the way of my work as a rabbi. We truly all play for the same team, except maybe if you are a Rangers fan who can't support the Islanders right now against the Lightning. But really, let's all remember that we play for the same team. Shabbat Shalom.